I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zias Palmer.
And this is Arcane Mark. Hello! Welcome to Build an Item Workshop, where today we will build an item based on the ideas and votes from people in chat.
So we already have a concept in chat, which is something for companions and or mounts. Awesome. So if you have any other ideas that you might like to see us make and you are here with us on Twitch, please go ahead and put those in the chat and we can vote.
That's right.
Excuse me. And if not, we would be happy to make the companion and or mount item.
That's right. Your concept can be as vague as something for a companion or mount, or as specific as a very specific concept. That's the cool thing about concepts. Sometimes it's just like, it should be in this area. Sometimes it's gonna be, this is exactly a an item that looks like an obsidian spike that was made of igneous rock and shoots out volcanoes. Or something like that.
Entire volcanoes. Now that would be a high level item.
That would probably be a high level item.
It would. Maybe you could have. Are they going to be underwater volcanoes like when we built the underwater volcano hazard on another episode?
You can decide where the item is going to be encountered, whether it's above or below the water, to determine where the volcanoes are shot.
Well, just like if you're building something in game, sometimes you're like, I want to build for your players. Sometimes you're like, I want to build an item that's like fills this particular niche for this particular character, or yada yada yada, or I want to build it, or just like I need a treasure of level 8 to give to them.
Yeah, I mean, that could also be a concept, right? Is like level 8 item. So we will take all the concepts you have from chat and we will put them into a poll and we will determine which item we're going to build. So just go ahead and type in any other concept and we will do a fake LeshyBot ping, which we probably should have done right away, but we didn't.
That's all right.
That's fine. Actually, wait. LeshyBot did it literally the same moment,
okay.
I think.
Well, whatever the case may be.
People got double pinged because
LeshyBot.
We did it like literally within 1 second of LeshyBot, I think. So if you're just coming in and you have an idea for a magic item for us to build in Build an Item Workshop, then just let us know any concept for an item. It could be companion or mount item, although that's the one we already have. It could be like level 9 item can be a concept. Obsidian spike that shoots out volcanoes.
Oh, we have another one here. Something that helps a cleric with spreading their faith.
Evangelical item. The next one, a concept is the 2 ring.
What is the 2 ring?
It's like the 1 ring, but 2, I guess.
Oh. So there's like a pair of them and they act like the 1
I mean, we have to figure out what the concept is. It's called the 2 ring.
Yes, yes.
If it wins, we will have to figure out what that means.
Fair enough, fair enough.
So we've got companion or mount item, evangelical item, and the 2 ring. Alright, I guess we could have a vote between those 3 right now. If somebody quickly puts in a 4th one, I'll add it to the...
Oh, some kind of traditional dragon thing. D is for dragon.
Traditional dragon thing. Okay, vote A for companion or mount item, B for evangelical item, C for the 2 ring, and D for traditional dragon thing.
Two votes for A, companion or mount item, coming in right away.
1 vote for D, traditional dragon thing. B, evangelical item. B. Evangelical item. Alright, so
far we have an evangelical companion or mount item, potentially.
I guess, or Fainless could, like, swap over and, like, tip the scales. It's also possible that one other person will come in and then we'll wind up with a 3-way tie.
That's true, that's true.
Alright, so it seems like...
Fainless just swap to A,
Swap to a companion or mount item. So it's definitely going to be a companion or mount item. But, like, it could be one that was somewhat evangelical and you spread the faith with the companion or mount item.
Mm-hmm.
But it should be mainly an item that's for companion or mount. Okay, so I'm thinking if it is a companion or mount item that is meant to, like, help spread the faith, then it's probably for a religious character who's riding on a mount.
Mm-hmm.
Or who has a companion.
It probably then has some sort of aspect of a majestic display or like a thing that has to do with the presence of the divine.
That's right.
So I'm imagining, like your oh yeah, well that's cool. Horseshoes of fate that leave holy symbols in the path as it walks.
Yeah, that could definitely work. Or just something that does that horseshoes work for horses specifically. It could also be another type of item that can more easily fit on your companion if they're not a horse. For example, maybe it is a tattoo item, but for an animal companion instead of for the like person who has the animal companion.
Oh yeah.
And it's kind of like in the symbol, in the religious symbol of your deity, and then you put it onto the animal, and then it leaves behind a trail. It can potentially leave behind a trail of religious symbols that could, when activated, cause a special effect.
So there was another Faneless said it could also be like those little booties to cover the animal's claws.
Yeah, potentially.
If it was like sort of the foot type thing. And then Rex Felis said that something to help keep your familiar alive.
So maybe it also has that as one of its activations.
Or something that allows your familiar to be Could it then potentially be something that gave a familiar like a new or like a new familiar ability, or gave them like an additional one that had to be a specific thing?
So the auspicious mount feat for champion is a specialization where your companion is marked by your deity's religious symbol or as a sacred creature of your deity. It gains actual religion skill. It can speak the language associated with your deity's servitors, and it has a much higher intelligence than a normal animal, for example.
Well, I think, an item that's going to be a familiar item is definitely going to be different from an item that's going to be like an animal companion item.
Yes. And this is clearly one that is, we were thinking was an animal companion / mount because the concept was companion / mount.
But two people have also been talking about familiar stuff, so.
Yes. I believe that that we may want to focus on the companion or mount, although I guess companion items do work for any kind of companion, which could indeed include a familiar as well.
But the kinds of things you're likely to be having a familiar do are very different from the kinds of things you're likely to be having an animal companion do.
Correct. I mean, on the other hand, we could make a companion item that will work on any kind of companion. Let's try it.
There we go.
So it's gonna have the companion trait, so it can work on a companion, and we will call it like the symbol of companion faith, or something like that.
Yes, that's a placeholder name.
Yeah,
that's what it says on
the symbol of companion faith. It has the companion trait. It's invested, and like. This tattoo leaves a religious symbol of your deity on your companion's body. And so it's going to have two main features. One of them is whenever your companion strides, it leaves a trail of your deity's religious symbols on the ground behind it for 1 round. They glow with dim light. That just is constant.
Yes.
Then it has 2 activations. Activation 1, so activate is anoint the trail.
Oh, yeah. Do something with the trail.
And so when you anoint the trail, then it's like, 2 actions. For you anoint the trail with
it's like holy or
divine
unholy.
Power. Choose holy or unholy, or I guess you don't choose. It would just say creatures who are, let's see, what creatures should be affected by this? Probably just creatures who don't worship your deity, who cross the trail of religious symbols, take some amount of spirit damage for 1 minute, and then if you are, what is the verb word for the thing that you are sanctified? Yes, if you are sanctified, holy or unholy, so is this activation.
Oh, well, Bro was also talking about, like, it could potentially be difficult terrain. Like, it's slower to cross. Also, I was thinking that, but there are also deities who are allies.
And the trail is difficult terrain for creatures who are sanctified in the opposite and doesn't harm creatures with the same sanctification, even if they don't worship your deity. So if you're neutral and you're Gozrad, then it's gonna harm everybody except Gozrad. But if you're Shelyn and you're holy, it won't harm anyone who's sanctified holy. It might still harm, like, other characters who are not sanctified holy, because it's just a magic item. It can't, like, detect what's in your heart unless you're sanctified holy. And so we can figure out the correct spirit damage when we figure out, like, what item level this is. And then the second activation, we wanted to keep your familiar / companion alive, is activate to what could be a good name for, like
a divine aegis or something, like it's protecting them.
It's like
we need like a verb for this, like
it could be like activate revival. No, that's the name of a spell. Activate divine intervention. So this will be a
is it a reaction, or maybe
so
it's
the
not,
question
it's
is
a non-action if it,
the question
like,
is like is it the animal companion who needs to be able to use this item,
or is it that
are you activating the item? Reaction.
Yeah, and then you spend your reaction to.
You can use this reaction, not your companion.
And then, like, the suggestion was some kind of, like, resistance.
Trigger. Your companion would take damage that reduces its hit points to 0.
So this is kind of like a reactive shield type thing for your companion.
Effect. Before taking the damage, your companion gains resistance to all damage against the triggering damage, and temporary hit points equal to blah.
Yes.
Until your until the end of your next turn. So the resistance is only against the triggering damage,
but they gain
temporary hit points might last more. If the resistance and the temporary hit points is actually more than all the triggering damage, it might help them against other situations. If the triggering damage is very high, it'll take up all of them.
Yeah, and this would work for both familiars and animal companions to help you protect them, and also the trail doesn't require, like, special other powers.
Like, if it's a mount, it's good because you are moving. If it's a familiar, it's good because they're tiny and they can move into creatures' squares, which is very annoying for people who don't want to be on the trail. So let's figure out what level this item should be.
Actually, because you said tiny, I want to... Crossing the trail. If a familiar comes into your space and puts holy symbol stamps in that space, Is leaving that square count as crossing the trail, or is it only if you go from one side of the trail to the other?
All right, I'm going to say who enter a space in the trail of symbols, but creatures who have the trail... creatures who are already in a space don't take damage from the trail.
So, yeah. That makes sense. Because you couldn't be
And
necessarily
a
forced to
creature
have it in your
can
space
only take damage from anoint
Once
the
per-
trail once per round.
Per round, so-
Even if
Mhm.
they cross the trail multiple times, because you might like run a ring around something,
Mhm.
like multiple rings around them, so that they have to cross multiple squares
and
to
then
move.
you're not doing that, yeah.
Yep. So, let's figure this out. So, the Divine Intervention also seems like, it probably, like...
I imagine creating like a big shield.
Yes,
the
so
holy
I think
symbol.
that, like, let's see. So,
You're not going to be able to do that constantly.
frequency
Yeah. Is that once per day?
is going to be once per day. Also, the...
Does the tattoo wink out after you...
The companion no longer creates a trail until your next daily preparations. Because it's used up its power.
That makes
for the
sense.
Divine
It does a
Intervention.
big flashy protection.
Which means you might not get to anoint the trail if you need the Divine Intervention right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then anoint the trail is a 2-action, and it lasts for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But it might actually otherwise be frequency once per hour.
Yeah.
So
So
you
you
can
can
just-
use it in multiple fights, but you're not going to be completely spamming
And if you
it.
need to use Divine Intervention, then you're not going to be using it again
Mhm.
that day.
Yes.
So, in terms of this effect, it keeps making these paths that deal damage that last for a round, and the effect that you can do this lasts for a minute. So, I think that this feels to me like between that and also secondarily having the reactive protection ability.
Well, as it's written right now, it just lists for 1 minute period. It didn't say we lost somehow the duration.
No, creatures who don't worship your deity who enter a space in the trail take spirit damage for 1 minute, but the trail already says.
Oh, right, that's where the trail was. Yes.
Lasts for 1 round.
Awesome.
Every time it strides, it keeps making trails.
Okay.
So
yeah,
you're
I
gonna
thought
be
we
able to
lost that
keep
part.
making these damaging trails for an entire minute and annoy your enemies because they'll be like, "Oh, I crossed it." And you'll be like, "Well, now I made another one."
Mhm.
So that seems like a fairly decent effect. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we can decide how much damage is dealt from this, especially since if you're doing a hit and run on a mount, you're going to be probably walking in the same area that you would be to be maximally annoying to the enemy because it's the area that you use to approach them.
Yeah, so like if you approach...
If you're in like a tunnel and you
Mhm.
go up to them and smack them and run away, they definitely have to cross
go
it.
through
And they're
that,
going to
yeah.
have to do it every time.
Mhm.
Especially if you're the sort of like the front line and the rest of your party is behind the place where you cross.
Yeah, so when I'm thinking about the amount of damage that this deals, I'm kind of thinking about like splash damage type stuff, where it's like the... and also...
So it does take 2 actions to activate it.
Mhm.
I'm thinking that this item is probably like level 10 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the fact that the reaction is pretty good, but it could have been lower level if it was entirely on its own. And the ability to make some kind of like damaging area where you move past maybe could have been a little lower level than that, but the fact that you could just keep recreating it each round.
But I guess because the actual size of it is going to be fairly small.
It depends on how fast your companion can move. It'll be up to twice the amount your companion can move. So if it has 50-foot move speed, then it can be 100 feet.
Yeah, but I guess like unless this is the main or only thing that your companion is doing, the area is probably pretty small. So yeah, I see why it would be higher.
And
than
if it's a
splash.
mount, the main
Yeah.
or only thing it's doing might be
moving
moving
anyway.
because
Yeah,
that
that's
is also
true.
moving you 100
I see
feet.
a statement: a cute hat.
Hmm.
So perhaps the yes.
So let's say this was item level 10. I
Yeah.
think it might be able to be item level 10.
Mhm.
It's going to be pretty good for a 10th level item because a 9th level item could be a wand of a 4th rank spell.
Yeah.
And this
But
seems like it's pretty good.
Now I'm picturing it as a hat though, and it's like, you know, you have like a religious.
Actually, I think I'm going to say it's an 11th rank item,
That'd be
but
cute.
then I'm going to also say that like while within
a certain distance of the
Are
companion, you
within-
count as having a
yeah, while you're in the dim light
yeah.
from the companion's trail, which is always as long as it's moved at all, because
Mm-hmm.
unless there's like a darkness effect,
Mm-hmm.
you gain a +2 item bonus to religion checks. So basically, it's actually a skill item for religion, but that
Oh,
your
yeah.
companion is giving you.
That's cool. I like that.
It's from the deity, like sanctifying it or something like that. So and it is at a level 11. Level 9 is the minimum for a religion skill item, but this does a bunch of stuff.
yeah.
So we're gonna want to look at the damage and the cost and some of the other numbers for this 11th level skill item of religion. So let's see. First of all, the DC is probably 28. I don't see necessarily a reason to make
Why
it
to
higher or lower.
Yeah. Okay, so then we can take a look at area damage. Then.
And we could say for its cost, probably like
It's not the bottom and it's
not the
top
bottom, but like maybe 1250.
Mm-hmm.
So we can say it's 1250 GP, and then if we're looking at what it might do for the damage, and what did we say? We said DC 28. I'll put that in.
Mm-hmm.
DC 28.
Is it DC 28 basic?
Yeah, let's say it's a DC 28 basic. DC 28 basic. Let's see. So maybe
Will? Yeah.
Alright, so they're gonna take spirit damage. DC 28 basic will. You have to keep spending actions to keep building this to make them take it every round.
So is this more than of an unlimited area type effect?
So, this is gonna be less than that because it happens each time.
Yeah.
So it's probably gonna be closer to like a floating flame
yeah,
type
yeah. Or not burning
situation.
hands.
Which, but except for it can make a pretty large area, whereas the floating flame is much smaller.
So a floating flame heightened to that level would have been like, yeah. So that would be kind of like the spell 6.
So a floating flame can only move 10 feet if you spend one action, whereas this can move like 100 feet if you spend one action.
Yeah.
To be fair, it also doesn't have to be sustained. You can sit in place for some of the 10 rounds, whereas the floating flame does have to be sustained.
Okay, so what about like half of a floating flame?
So definitely should not do as much as a floating flame of whatever level we think that this is. Now, the highest level effect, or highest rank effect that an 11th level item could theoretically have is a 5th rank spell. So maybe we can do like a 3rd rank floating flame worth of damage since it's got a much better area.
So yeah.
So that would be 4d6. 4d6. Now.
Oh, someone in chat was saying 3d6.
Someone was saying 3d6 since
Because
there's a decent chance to trigger a weakness for the. Now, what I was about to say, which is very similar to what Rohit was thinking here, is that let's change it so that
it does more
is
for the...
so there's 4d4 spirit damage, which is almost exactly the same as 3d6.
Yes.
Which increases against creatures that are of the opposite sanctification who also probably are weak.
Yes.
To it as well. So let's say that it does 4d4 spirit damage or 4d8 spirit damage against creatures of the opposite sanctification.
Yeah, that would probably go down here in the if you were sanctified. I guess, yeah, we'd probably rearrange this if we were putting it for
we'd rearrange it if we were doing it for publication.
Yeah.
That's fine. So now that we know that it's an 11th level item, let's say that it gives your companion resistance. Let's give it resistance 12 to all damage against the triggering damage, and then also gain 25 temporary hit points.
Yeah, I figured the resistance would be somewhere around 10, just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
So
basically, it's giving you the ability to reduce it by 37. But more if it's like one of those fiends who is like, well, I'm gonna hit you with my spirit unholy damage in addition to my slashing damage and fire damage.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got some fiends hit you for fire on spirit and slashing, and you will reduce that by 36 and then the temporary hit points. So it's especially good against the types of creatures that you want to be good against. So this is this seems pretty legit.
Yeah, I feel like if you were doing this you might mod this if you were doing it for a deity that's like, I am a deity of darkness, and then instead of making dim light in my
do something else
or whatever.
Create shadows that change the light level down from bright to dim, but not into total
darkness. Yeah.
Yep. That's in theory, that's much more powerful because of the fact that you might be able to claim that you're using that to hide. So I would maybe make it a different item level at that point. All right, so we've created the symbol of companion faith, which is item 11.
Oh, and someone said adding the appropriate trait to the companion. So, you're saying if the companion kind of if you were sanctified and then that causes the animal to
yes.
have their attacks.
I would say that this causes this would probably cause the animal to be sanctified as well. But we would have to raise the item by a significant amount because it makes all of their strikes attacks go against it wouldn't help familiars, but for animal companions
so I think you would probably have a variant of it that was a higher level variant that was just for animal companions and such, and not for familiars.
That might be a separate item.
Yeah. Because I think that one might be then focused less on the walking and more focused on the attacking potentially, or you could have both.
Yeah, so the greater version of this item is probably level maybe 18. That's only one level lower than the minimum for its item bonus or one level higher rather than being levels higher, because I'm not planning on making it do
a lot
that many more features.
Yeah. So then it's a +3.
So yeah, then it's gonna be a +3. And it's going to be
item.
DC 48. So yeah, it's going to be +3 religion for the greater version. +3 religion, DC 38.
Oh, there was a comment on making sure that they're not damaged by their own trail.
Yes. Well, then that would be in case they go back into their own path.
Oh, well, I guess they would then be treated as if they worship or other creatures that don't worship your deity.
I'll just put other creatures. Yeah. That way, it's safe from its own thing. Actually, I think it would be fair to say your companion gains the favor of your deity and is affected by features that depend on which deity a creature worships
accordingly
as a worshiper.
Yep.
So that way it would be you've got the religious symbols making the religious symbols, so it's effectively a worshiper, even though it's an animal and it might not be smart enough to worship your deity.
And if it's a companion that is smart enough, then they probably need to.
So if your companion is intelligent enough to worship a deity, and they don't worship your deity,
they can't use this item probably.
Your deity, for some reason, they can't invest this item.
Yes.
So if you are I worship Shelyn, and my familiar is an imp of Asmodeus who's on my shoulder trying to tell me to do evil things because I'm in Cheliax. Yeah. Is maybe spying on me, and that's my role play. You can do that,
but you can't
you can't put the Shelyn thing on the imp.
Yes. And the Shelynite's trying to redeem the imp all along.
It's I'm trying to redeem you, imp. But Shelyn won't let you put that on the imp unless you actually redeem the imp. Yes. And then you can, and Shelyn is very proud of you. Alright, so it's an 18th level item, has +3 religion, DC 38. The spirit damage would be raised to 74 /78 spirit damage.
And then the resistance is going to go up. And the resistance
quite a bit too. Yeah, resistance would be raised from
To
12 to
20.
let's make it 20. Resistance 20, and then the temporary hit points
Maybe those
would
double.
be 40.
Oh, already not quite. Yeah, that works too. Right, because it was 10 to 18.
Maybe it would be 40. Because the temporary hit points were usually twice the resistance.
Oh, right, yeah, that works. Yeah.
And the resistance was a
And
little bit higher
and
than
you
the
also
level
have
of the
the
item.
power, and then you also have the power of the attacks being sanctified.
And I wouldn't put that on the greater version just because
Maybe not yet.
I wanted to price this greater version so it would be equally good for familiar.
Oh, right, yeah. So then if you had it, you could have another version that was then like a higher level, even.
Or just like I would say it would be a separate item that if you want to make companions
one that was
have
more
sanctified
focused
attacks.
on like the attacks, and then would be very built into that, as opposed to moving. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
All right. So we've done it. Thank you very much for everyone's ideas and suggestions. I think that this would be a fun item for a lot of religiously inclined characters to help spread their faith by literally leaving these signs and showing the power that their deity has granted their companion. I can also see characters proselytizing while they're standing next to this is my sacred horse of Shellen, and as you can see, I mean, if any horse is gonna have a rainbow mane, I feel like it's a sacred horse of Shellen.
I think it's probably safe to say that it would be a sacred horse of Shellen that would have a rainbow mane.
So we can go ahead and pop this in the channel on tiny.cc/arcademark, our Discord. We've got that.
Yes, if you're not on the Discord, I will put it into the chat so that you can join and see the item.
And in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and say goodbye to our YouTube viewers?
All right.
And figure out what our next
Bye,
episode is gonna
YouTube.
be.
See you next
Bye.
time.